The night we saw too much. It was supposed to be just another night. A stupid, reckless adventure between two friends with nothing better to do. 5 years ago, when I was 21, my best friend Seth and I were obsessed with a ghost hunting app that claimed to detect supernatural activity. It was a gimmick, obviously, bunch of random words appearing on the screen. Dots that represented spirits moving around with no real logic. But sometimes, just sometimes, the words seemed to line up a little too well. It was a little past 2 a.m. when Seth had the brilliant idea of taking the app to the old family-owned cemetery on the outskirts of town. I hesitated, of course. Who wouldn't? But Seth was persistent. He always was. So, against my better judgment, I found myself walking the eerily empty streets towards the cemetery, the silence pressing in around us like something alive. The town was never this quiet, never this still. No cars lined the streets, no distant hum of life in the background. Just us, our footsteps echoing in the night. We reached the cemetery gates, the rusted iron bars, standing like silent sentinels against the backdrop of gravestones and twisted trees. Seth, being Seth, didn't hesitate. He stepped up to the gate and called out, his voice bouncing off the cold marble slabs. "Come on, show us something," he taunted, waving his phone in the air as if daring the spirits to respond. Nothing. I let out a shaky breath. "All right, let's go. This was fun." But Seth wasn't done. He climbed over the gate, his boots landing heavily on the ground inside the cemetery. "Maybe they need more convincing." He grinned before doing the dumbest thing he could have possibly done. He stomped on a grave, shouting, "Come on, make it worth our time." And then it happened. Both our phones lit up at the exact same time. One word, repeated, "Here." We stared at our screens, the glowing letters burning into our retinas. And then, red dots, maybe more, appeared on the radar. All around us, encircling us. I looked up, expecting to see nothing but empty space. But Seth was already next to me, his cocky grin wiped clean off his face. "We have to go," I whispered. But before we could move, something changed. The streetlights, one by one, they started shutting off, starting from the far end of the street and moving towards us in a slow, methodical sequence. Click, click, click. Coming closer. Getting darker. I grabbed Seth's arm. "Run!" We bolted, our legs pumping, lungs burning as we sprinted through the night. The silence was gone, now replaced by the pounding of our feet, the erratic breathing, and something else. A sound I couldn't quite place. A whisper. Low, insidious, crawling into my ears and settling in my brain. We didn't stop until we were back in my driveway, bent over, gasping for air. My stomach churned with nausea. My limbs trembling. I barely registered that my phone had vibrated again until Seth, his face drained of all color, pointed at it. I didn't want to look, but I did. It was my name, in bright, bold letters across the screen. I turned the phone off immediately. "Screw this," I muttered, shaking my head. "I'm done." Seth nodded, but neither of us spoke for a while. We just stood there, the weight of what happened pressing down on us. And then another notification. This time, it wasn't my name. It was my sister's. And then my brother's, one after another. A cold dread slithered up my spine. My fingers trembled as I deleted the app. Seth refused to stay over, and I couldn't blame him. When I finally crawled into bed, exhaustion took over, and I slipped into a restless sleep. Then came the dream. A voice, muffled, distant, repeating a word over and over. I tried to grasp what it was saying, but the sound remained distorted, just beyond comprehension. The closer I got to waking, the clearer it became. My phone, it was off. The battery wasn't even in it. But the screen glowed. The app was running. And there, just 6 feet from where I lay, was another red dot. Still repeating. Still whispering. I shot up in bed, my breath caught in my throat. I scrambled to turn on the lights, my pulse hammering. The room was empty. Silent, but something was wrong. My shirt. I pulled it up, my hands shaking uncontrollably. A thin, razor-sharp cut stretched from my left shoulder to my right hip. I don't know what happened that night. And I don't want to know. But I've never touched another ghost hunting app since.